Around Town with Paul J. Cervone is a new video series that brings real estate knowledge directly to you. It's real talk with real people, educational and informative. Now here's your host, Paul J. Cervone.
Back around town with Paul J. Cervone and my good friend Jonathan Swartz of NRL Mortgage. We've talked about some great things. Now I want to focus on, John, for our audience. What does a pre-approval process look like for a buyer in today's market?
Sure.
So if you can take us through some of the steps.
Absolutely.
That'd be great.
So we'll pull it back just a little bit.
Sure.
So there's two different ways we can do this.
Okay.
We can do a pre-qualification.
Okay.
Or we can do a pre-approval.
Let's time out right there. Let's talk about the difference between both.
Sure.
Because I think, and I've seen this through my career, pre-qualification versus pre-approval. Some listing agents are like, no, that pre-qualification means nothing. I want a pre-approval. Mm-hmm. So let's speak to the audience a little bit about the difference.
So we'll start with pre-qualification.
Sure.
Pre-qualification would be the customer comes to me.
Okay.
I take an application.
Yeah.
I run it through our systems. I pull their credit.
Yeah.
I verify their income, their assets, make sure they've got what they've got.
Okay.
And then I can pre-qualify them based on their income and their assets.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Does it hold ground? Could things change? Yes, they very well could.
Okay.
With a pre-approval, we're collecting all the documents on top of it. We're sending it into underwriting and actually getting an underwriting approval. So at the end of the day, when somebody is handed a pre-approval, their income and assets have already been reviewed and verified. Their paperwork's already been reviewed and verified.
Yeah.
And they already have an underwriting approval.
Yeah.
Preliminary approval.
Yeah. Barring a few outstanding things, right?
Obviously, we still need to collect updated pay stubs, updated bank statements before close.
Appraisal has to happen.
Yeah. But when somebody comes in with a pre-approval, they're much more qualified than somebody that comes in with just a pre-qualification.
Right.
And that's essentially the difference between the two.
Yeah. So I want to talk about, since we just talked quickly about appraisal, let's talk about just quickly appraisal waivers.
Certainly.
Because that's a unique thing for our audience, and I don't know if a lot of buyers understand how that works and why that works in our industry.
Sure.
Or your industry.
And it actually is a little bit confusing.
Yeah.
There are some people that says, well, I get an appraisal waiver.
What does that mean?
Well, how about this? A customer said to us the other day, they said, hey, I'm waiving the appraisal. I said, well, we completely understand you're waiving the appraisal, but we still need to order an appraisal for the lender. Now, an appraisal waiver, when we're running our pre-approvals or our pre-qualifications, once we put an address in the system, there's a tract, and what ends up happening is Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac will run that address through their systems. And if Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac agrees with the value that we're displaying, they'll give us something called an appraisal waiver.
Okay.
And what that means is that as long as we're using that number, we no longer need to order a physical appraisal.
Right. And it's not a bad thing if it happens, because I know some buyers are freaked out, like, what do you mean I got an appraisal waiver? What do you mean I don't get a valuation of the property? It already means that, like you said, Freddie or Fannie has, said
agreed with the value.
They have agreed with the value, and there's no need to pursue it forward.
So it's funny. It's funny that you say this. We also had a customer that we said, "Hey, we've got an appraisal waiver. Congratulations!"
Right.
And they said, "No. I want an appraisal.
I want to know the value of this house."
And in this circumstance, the appraised value came in $50,000 less than the appraisal waiver, which in turn they renegotiated with the seller. And got $50,000 off the price of the house.
Well,
if they had taken the appraisal waiver.
So there can be good,
That doesn't happen often.
Yeah, it's a unicorn probably.
It's definitely a unicorn.
But it's great that you share that with the audience. So it can happen.
It can.
So let's continue on the process of a pre-approval. So, what other steps? Like, how does someone get into your system? Are they doing it electronically or online application?
There are multiple different ways.
Taking it over the phone?
I've been in the business for over 20 years now. So
So you did it old school, probably.
Up until about 6 months ago, I was still talking on the phone and writing down my paper applications and then inputting them. Most of the guys in the office said, "John, this is ridiculous. Why are you still doing that?" So I do have an online system where they can log on. It's very intuitive. It's very simple to use. The customer logs in, creates an account, gives consent to pull their credit, and once I get the application in my system, I can pull the credit, I can import it into our system, and run a pre-qualification for them.
Yeah, awesome. So today with technology, I guess to our audience, it makes it a lot easier for you. The first step is contacting a really qualified person like yourself, talking about income, assets, credit, you lay out basically what you're going to do, what it's going to, and granted, for a lot of people out there and buyers, it's like having a root canal. honestly.
Sometimes.
Right? Sometimes it can be, because they have to do a deep dive, they have to have tax statements, they have to verify that you are who you are. So it's totally understandable. And but you guys do a great job here at NRL, and you, my friend, are certainly top of the game.
Listen, no matter how easy or difficult or complex the situation is, we're going to treat everybody the same.
I get it. All right. Well, this is Paul J. Cervone around town with my good friend Jonathan Swartz.
That's a wrap on this episode of Around Town with Paul J. Cervone. Like and follow this page to hear more real talk with real people.